Verse 1 here says, Saul approved of his execution, and there arose on that day a great persecution against the church in Jerusalem. And they were all scattered through the regions of Judea and Samaria. So this is the first thing we're looking at that persecution does. It providentially scatters the seed. It providentially scatters the seed. The devil is like the man who saw an enemy in his field, sowing his seeds, using his ground to sow his seeds, and he took out his rifle, and as he aimed at the man, he jumped on his horse and he started galloping out of the seed, and he took aim and he fired, and the bullet ripped through the bag of grain and spread it all over the man's field. Wasn't what he was aiming to do. This is what persecution is like. The devil takes up his rocks, the devil takes up his spear, and he takes up his arm of persecution and damages the church and attacks the church. But all that he is doing is spreading her further and wider and sending her to her knees in deeper prayer. When we talk about God's providence, we mean the way that God ordinarily controls every element of human history. It's all playing out according to his plan. And so when persecution comes, we don't simply say, and you know what, it was quite coincidental, probably accidental. I'm sure God was glad when he looked back on his actions. But it happened that the gospel went out exactly as he had commanded after he sent some persecution. God's not doing trial and error. This was intentional. Suffering, persecution is how God scatters the seed. The last time that the words Judea and Samaria are used in the book of Acts was back in Acts chapter 1, verse 8. When he had told them, go, preach in Jerusalem, preach in Judea, preach in Samaria, and then to the ends of the earth. And now, providentially, we're being told, well, that's where they ended up going because of the persecution of Saul against the church after the murder of Stephen. Look at verse 4 in Acts chapter 8. Verse 4 in Acts chapter 8. Now those who were scattered went about preaching the word. Good. Very good. Philip went down to the city of Samaria and proclaimed to them the Christ. Would you look at that? What an idea. What an idea. Obeying Jesus. And the crowds with one accord paid attention to what was being said by Philip when they heard him and saw the signs that he did. For unclean spirits, crying out with a loud voice, came out of many who had them, and many who were paralyzed or lame were healed. So there was much joy in that city. They went about preaching the word as they were scattered from the persecution. Philip went to Samaria. Other men went further north, as we see in Acts chapter 11. There is an element of the mission going out beyond the human planning. They didn't sit down and say, so we'll sacrifice Stephen. They're better pastors than me. They don't sacrifice people for the mission and leave them behind in other countries. They didn't say, we'll sacrifice Stephen and then we'll all run away and go preach. No, they had all the plans to stay where they were and preach. It's God who spread them, and beyond their planning, they had a mission trip to Samaria entirely accidentally. Maybe some of you will have an unplanned mission trip to jail. Maybe some of you will have an unplanned mission trip back home if you're not a permanent resident here, and you see that as God's hand to take the gospel wherever you go.